allegiance will now be led by Chief of Staff Thornton, followed by a moment of silence and reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can standing for 1 minute silence. The clerk will call the roll. Please correct the pronunciation of your name if it is incorrect. Oloko, Anderson, Baldinger, Benegas, Brazier, Fulham, Koviak, Cumby, Sapolito, Davis, DiLorenzo, Dorsey, Dorsnowski, Greer, Fry, Goggins, Gay, George, Gopel, Hopkins, Hunter, Iftikhar, Jacobson, Cassetti, Keenan, Kearns, Kirby, Lemery, Lewis, Lusry, Matthews, Manwaring, Middleton, Bodica, Wakapusia, Pigford, Primus, Ryan, Sams, Sanders, Santiago Cedillo, Sheridan, Bergen, Gilfert, Tapia, Palaka, Violet, Von Cannon, Walker, Watley. With a quorum being present, is there a motion to approve the Journal of November 5th, 2025 as found online? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Just making sure everyone said proxy for their people. Chairwoman Anderson. Any others? We are now in line for general orders of the Senate, beginning with reports from Senate leadership. Speaker Pro Tempore Violette, you are recognized.
Hey y'all, rules met Sunday at 5:30. We went over 10 pieces of legislation, 8 of which were found favorable and 2 that were not. Those 2 were a recommendation to update the signage for the College of Pharmacy. There was just a verb missing in the that clause that the committee was really unsure of where it was supposed to be. So that we would have altered the piece a bit too much had we added that. And then we denied a bill to amend the Constitution to allow the student body treasurer to vote on allocation requests from the Finance Committee because the title was a little misleading to what the actual structure said. Just a reminder to fill out those proxy forms if you can't make it. Absences are adding up. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The Speaker Pro Tempore yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Academics Committee. Chairperson Koviak, you are recognized.
Good evening. That's a little bit louder than I was expecting. We met at normal time on Tuesdays, and I just want to get that clarified on Tuesday. I've been getting a lot of emails asking for shadowing and other related stuff, asking about Friday. Not doing that no more. 6:30 on Tuesday in the LSC is when we meet. We met this past Tuesday. Looking at the piece that we had carried over, I'll be so honest, it went a little bit confusingly, but we are fine essentially just reverting back to the original version of the piece. Just discussions about different aspects of safety. But that being said, that was kind of the main topic of legislation. And then when it goes to further stuff, currently we're looking at, with the committee, developing something called Academics Week. Essentially would be in spring semester just because we're a little too close to end of fall. Essentially just to look at making sure that students know their people within the academic side of things, advocacy, all those kinds of things, and be able to share concerns. Been working with the president's branch and my counterpart Jacob Booten on that. We are getting the ball rolling, just not sure exactly what that will look like quite yet, but was discussed with committee, and people are very excited, so hope to get more information about that as that comes about. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairperson yields their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Finance Committee. Chairman Matthews, you are recognized.
Hello. Finance Committee met at our usual time and place last Friday. We reviewed $7,894.28 requests, and of that approved $7,856.88. In addition, we discussed the possibility of granting the student body treasurer a vote on allocation requests. It was a lively discussion, to be sure. And actually, it's a very interesting issue that I'm excited to talk with you guys about in a little bit. And so we did not come to a consensus, but I thought I would add something to the calendar for this week so that we could start to cycle that through the system. It would require a constitutional amendment, but as I'll discuss, I think it is something that is worthwhile. I submitted that bill over the weekend, and it had some issues, which was my bad, and so I worked with Daniel to rewrite it, and so I'll be adding that to the calendar shortly. Any questions?
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Health and Safety Committee. Chairwoman Cumbie, you are recognized.
Hi, everyone. We met last Wednesday after Senate, as we always do, and we found SBL 117-128 unanimously favorable, with one abstaining, aka me. Anywho, we began our little programming week this week. Super fun. We had our self-defense class yesterday. Super cool. Learned some really good moves. Y'all better watch out for Myron. He's like ready to go. And then today we started our first day of tabling, dispensing drink test kits and also like cup covers. We have a scrunchie and we also have like a keychain, so like y'all should definitely come by. It's really cool. But we'll be doing that again tomorrow from 11 to 2. It's also an absence forgiveness event, so like please do come, especially if like you're kind of tutoring. As for legislation we're working on, Senator Benegas is still researching possibly having like sunscreen dispensers on campus, which would be really cool. And then I'm researching the birth control policy here at USC. And then we're also working on Senator Aloco is working on having like healthier alternatives like in vending machines. And so really excited to hear updates on that. Hopefully some pieces will hit the floor maybe next week, TBD. But I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Judiciary Committee. Chairwoman Diapolito, you are recognized.
Hey guys, Judiciary met on Friday at 12 o'clock, our normal meeting time, or is 12:30, our normal meeting time. We had no legislation to review. We worked on a committee piece that corrected the constitutional challenges criteria, which I'll go over then. We also researched what other SEC schools mean by having their documents public. We found a mix of some schools with no codes or constitution on their website, some that are protected by an SSO, so you have to be part of the university to view them, and some that only have one or the other public. So we found a big mix of that. If you have any questions about any of that research, feel free to reach out to me. We also, oh, that was it. I double read it. I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Liberties and Representation Committee. Chairwoman Hopkins, you are recognized.
Hi everyone. We met at our normal time, which is Mondays at 4 p.m. in the LSC. And we really worked on finalizing the plan for the tabling initiative that we've been working on. We're still waiting for them to get back with a specific date, but the plan is that we are going to partner with anyrefugee.org, which basically, so it's gonna be fun. So we're going to allow students to fill out a postcard in exchange for some hot chocolate, and they're gonna get like a little note with a quote from Anne Frank's diary and also like some educational material about the center itself. But the postcards are going to that organization, which sends like cards of hope to refugees, particularly children all over the world. So I think it's a really cute little thing we've got planned. It was all Gracie's idea, so good job to her. That's what we worked on Monday, and then we also have a piece by myself and Senator Tapia on the second uncontested reading calendar tonight, so I'll be back up here. But yeah, I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Chairwoman Anderson, you are recognized.
Hi, sorry. Hi, guys. We did not meet Monday at 5:15 because we didn't have any legislation to go over, but we were busy with interviews this week. We interviewed Turner Wilson, who was found unfavorable by a vote of 3-2. Those that found him unfavorable said that they wanted a more established action plan as well as a better understanding of the role of a student senator. Jamie Ryan was interviewed right before the Senate session. It was found unanimously favorable, meaning that she will be the second person on the Senate waitlist, which is exciting. And then Hannah Littlefield was also found unfavorable. She has been contacted 3 times and hasn't responded. Should she respond to an email at any point, we would be able to re-interview her. And I'll be requesting a extension for the interview of Logan Scyther. His interview is scheduled this Friday at 1 p.m. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Student Life Committee. Chairman Spurgeon, you are recognized.
Hi, this was a pretty busy week for Student Life. We met at our normal time, had one piece of legislation, Bill 129, which we did not find favorable because the committee decided that the year 105 didn't hold much significance, especially compared to other bills of similar things, just 100. So, yeah, we've got 3 initiatives going on right now. The first one is currently happening. We have a toy drive partnered with Homeless No More. And so there's a bin out in the LSC, and I'll get you all some graphics to repost and share, and you should hopefully see a lot of that happening around. So please do bring toys. Please do tell people. Hopefully we can get some more bins out there. Currently there's no toys in the bin. That makes me kind of sad. So this is my call for help. Yeah, the next 2 initiatives that we're planning are 5K that'll be around Columbia. The hope is to invite people from all around the suburbs to come down and walk around or run around USC. The route will be all over campus. We hope it's going to be another great time for vendors and other people to get out there and just connect with the community. The next thing we're planning on doing is like a sort of carnival style event, sort of a food for thought, but super, super large with a lot of games and other things for people to enjoy. And the hope is to provide something fun for students to do and provide an opportunity for student government to interact with all these students. There'll be surveys, question cards, forms, and all sorts of mechanisms to collect ideas. And we hope that we can use all of that to help fuel the committee in the future. I yield the questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Sustainability Committee. Chairwoman Gokel, you are recognized.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. We met our usual time on Monday at 6:30 and we reviewed one piece of legislation which we found favorable with an amendment that is SBL 117-130. So we'll be adding that amendment to that piece during the motion period. Just some updates. Marietta is starting to make a sustainability app, which is like her big initiative of the year. So if anyone has ideas like what to add on the app, some like ideas that she has like where to recycle, what to recycle, kind of different stuff like that. Meeting with Larry Cook tomorrow about recycling bins in the quads, which is the last 2 legislations, and then we're collaborating with food services on recycling education. So look out for like probably a social media post from them. And I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Fry.
At 6:30 on Monday.
virtually.
virtually, yeah.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the freshman council. Are there any representatives present?
Hi, everyone. My name's Ben Roach. I'm on Freshman Council. I'm the Senate Liaison for the Sustainability Committee. Some updates from our committees. Our new Clemson committee had our first meeting last Wednesday with our colleagues at Clemson. We had several discussion items. Nothing was finalized or made more concrete. Directions are kind of conflicting right now. Clemson's looking more towards a service project where we were looking more towards some kind of event that we could hold. So we're looking to get more of a regular meeting time for that and be able to finalize some ideas for there. Sustainability Committee, we just finalized our sustainability tree tabling event where we're going to be handing out seed paper, sustainable Christmas ornaments. So when we take them off the Christmas tree, you can plant them and they'll grow wildflowers. That will be Tuesday, December 2nd from 10 to 2 p.m. on Green Street during the Sustainable Carolina Farmers Market. Also, we will have a Sustainable Thrift pop-up next semester on Tuesday, February 17th, and we'll have more details with that whenever that gets fully finalized. Some updates from the Student Life Committee. They have finalized their hot chocolate and holiday cookie stand event on Friday, December 5th, the week before finals. And they are also beginning to plan events for next semester. And some of the ideas they have are a floating lantern event at the Teacoop Fountain and a Spring into Giving food drive.
So for the Health and Safety Committee, we're working on finalizing our brain food bar collab with the Academics Committee. It's going to take place on Tuesday, December 2nd, from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Scholars Corner Library. It's going to be like a buffet style where we're going to provide different brain foods like granola, almonds, cranberries, and stuff like that to provide nutrition. It's supposed to take place during Farms Week to just help students have that nutrition for fun. And then also Health and Safety is working on the Stop the Spike event, which is gonna take place next semester on Wednesday, January 21st at 6 p.m. It's gonna take place at the COSIP Beverage Lab, and basically it's just gonna raise awareness for spiking. And we're just gonna have non-alcoholic drinks. They're gonna kind of simulate it to how likely it is to get spiked. And we're working on finalizing that. That's gonna happen next semester. And then for the Academics Committee, the supply drive is still going on. It ends on November 8th, which is tomorrow. It's tomorrow at Russell House, LSC, just doing stuff like pencils, tissues, and hollows and stuff like that. It's going to support the United Way Midlands and it helps contribute to service out, stuff going into that. And then also, Academics is working on the AMP finals, which includes the brain food bar, like I mentioned before. That's going to be at the library from December 1st to 3rd, from 3 to 5 p.m. And then more details with that when it comes forward. And then for the Liberties and Representation Committee, they're planning on presentations on bus transportation and with cars at the beginning of next semester. And if anybody has ideas and would like to collaborate, please let Liberties and Representation Committee know. And they're also working on planning more specifics on what they Senate and what they finalize. And we deal with our kind of questions.
The representatives yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Hopkins.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name. Yeah, my name is Duval.
Yay.
I'm Bill.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Constitutional Council. Chief Justice Butcher, you are recognized.
I've been going over past precedent, just so to make myself more knowledgeable about that. If anybody has any questions about CC precedent, please let me know. I have nothing else to report. I yield my time to questions.
The Chief Justice yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We're now in line for a report from the Speaker of the Student Senate. I kind of have a lot, so bear with me. First off, if you're starting abroad next semester, please fill out this form. Please, 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 please fill it out today. I should see some phones going out because I know that a lot of y'all are. Please. about this form, even if you think I know, I probably don't, so fill it out. I had the pleasure today of going to a student panel with our Board of Visitors. Senator Hunter was there with me, as well as the other execs. It was super interesting. We got to speak on a lot of different issues, including like infrastructure on campus, parking, why students stay in Columbia, why people leave, what we can do to increase like donor amounts from alumni, things like that. If anybody has any questions, let me know. Our codes edit committee is looking pretty good. I recently reached back out to Dr. Goodwin and Dr. Arndt, just asking about precedent when it comes to treasurer voting on allocation requests, as well as the concept of like what is considered public, what isn't. Any questions about that, please let me know. Just a reminder, if you think of anything, just text me or email me and let me know. Still dealing with the online voting stuff. Basically, our major issue right now is we're kind of falling short in the aspect of doing online voting and also having proxies, because everyone would have an individual account. So I also emailed Dr. Goodwin and Dr. Arndt about proxies and whether or not that was a thing in other schools or what that would look like if we were to get away with those. This form is just to know whether or not you're studying abroad next semester, so we can start to plan out how many vacant seats there are going to be. I also just wanted to go over a lot of our chair people are studying abroad next semester, unfortunately, and we're all going to miss them. But that means that there's going to be a lot of chair positions opening up. I would heavily encourage that anybody who's interested apply. It doesn't have to be in a committee that you serve on currently. You don't need to be vice chair to apply. We're going to do a full round of like applications and interviews the way that you would have done at the beginning of the semester. So this is a great opportunity for students that may have joined as a vacant seat senator, because you might be able to apply and get a committee chair position. I'd recommend if you have questions about the certain committees and what the committee chairs do, just reach out to them and I'm sure they would be more than happy to help you out with that, or you could always ask me. That should open up probably during Christmas break, but I'll make the deadline about a week after Christmas break, just so you guys have a chance to like do it even though you're not going to be at school. And then my last thing is just, I know that Senator Matthews mentioned that he was going to motion a piece on today about the treasurer voting on allocation requests. This is the first time in a while that we've done like a piece that's kind of like a new idea. It's never been done before at our university specifically. And just like a general reminder that like when you're talking about certain positions, like there is a real person behind that position. We all know and love Ashley. So just remember that when we're having discussions about that piece of legislation, we're debating it, especially just remember that you can debate like the legislative side of this position, but at the end of the day, there is a very real person who is in that position and works like very hard, much harder than me and much of the other people in this organization to make sure that we're all getting what we need. With that, I yield my time to questions. Are there any questions? Also, we have Senate next week, and then it's Thanksgiving break, so we'll have a week break after that. And then our last Senate session will be the last full week of process for this next. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body treasurer. Treasurer Ashley Reynolds, you are recognized.
Awesome. Happy Wednesday. So first off, we'll do our reimbursements for the week. So just a reminder that we have like the new categories this year. So awaiting assignment, we have 3 for $8,766 assigned to a finance team member. We have 4 for $10,898. Student info needed. So the finance team member has done what they need to do. We're waiting on a student response. We have 8 for $14,064. And then submitted for payment, 4 for $973. And then closed in this past week, we had 2 for $2,621. And then touching on something Maura just touched on about the Board of Visitors, we had a great meeting this morning, joined by Senator Grant, Hunter, and Abby, Bree, and the rest of the exec. And I also brought up financing. I brought up the fact that we have an increased number of students on this campus, an increased number of student organizations, yet the amount of money that we're allocating to student organizations is staying the same across the board. So I did kind of lobby to the Board of Visitors about what it would look like to increase. Maybe it's not to us, maybe it's to something else, but just that if we're growing, that budget needs to grow with us. I also talked to them about Gift for Garnet and what that means for student organizations, as well as crowdfunding. With that, I yield my time to questions.
The treasurer yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body vice president. Vice President Jordan Richardson, you are recognized.
Hey y'all, like Maura and Ashley said,
like Lauren actually said, I had my board of visitors meeting today, and I brought a student panel. Senator Grant was with us, and or Ashley, the exec. So yeah, and I think went really well. They were really happy to have us there. We had some good conversations. Gave good feedback. As tomorrow we have SG on the street. It's mental health awareness. So it'll be from 11:30 to 2 on Green Street. Our Center of Health and Wellbeing will be there. We'll have a few counselors out there. We're giving out free, I don't know how to say it, I think it's Element, LNT, but it's basically liquid IV. So how about tomorrow? Come see us. And I want y'all's opinion really quick. Who would purchase a student government sweatshirt?
If it was cute.
If it was cute. It's not gonna be on the sweatshirt. Maybe if you do that. How much is it? I don't know how much it's gonna cost. It's gonna depend on how many people are buy it. I was just wondering if that's even like something we should do. If y'all would be interested in. Yes.
Normally the price fluctuates based on, I mean, I don't know if it's the same model, but for the t-shirts, it started at like $20, and then for how many people ordered, the price started going down and down and down as the shipment started going up in bulk size.
Yes. What do y'all think? Do we want like a hoodie or like a crew-neck?
Mock neck?
Honestly, that would be cool. I'll put a. Let's see. I'll put a poll in the group chat. Just vote on it. But without you, my time to questions.
The student body vice president yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body president. Chief of Staff Rotundo, you're recognized. I forgot your last name. Sorry.
Hey everybody, Courtney is so sorry she can't be here. She's currently driving back from USC Beaufort. Right now, she said the trip went very well and she was able to connect with USC Beaufort student body president and exchange insights on how student government operates here at USC Columbia. So that was a good exchange of ideas. Courtney wants to give a huge shout out to everybody who participated in Stuff the Bus. We were able to collect over 1,400 items. The community shop was very grateful and said that this should last until about the holiday season. But if you have more donations, please take them directly to the community shop. We had a Russell House expansion meeting last Friday. Derek Greener came and he was able to hear some of our insights and give us some logistical advice when it comes to Russell House. This is going to lead into further conversations that have been started in cabinet yesterday regarding Russell House expansion and the campus activity fee. With that, I yield my time.
The Chief of Staff yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. I quickly want to piggyback off what he said before we move into special orders. With the community shop, I know I talked about last week how a lot of our students are facing like critical shortages in food supply as well as like increasing barriers. Even though those may be going away, it sounds like government's voting this afternoon, but you still need to make sure that you're donating food around this time because the holiday season is really hard for a lot of students. The community shop shared with Courtney that last week they spent about $2,000 at Kroger getting like massive amounts of food, and it was all used up in 1 week. So them saying that our donations are going to last through the holiday season is just an estimate, and it may get used up in 5 days. It might get used up in 3 weeks. So I would definitely encourage all of y'all, if you have extra money you're able to give, just buy a few extra cans of food and drop it off there. It's super easy and it will benefit a student in need. We are now in line for special orders of the Senate. Are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee requesting a 1-week extension for the interview of Logan Cypress.
The question is of the approval of a 1-week extension for the interview. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The extension is granted. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read? Seeing no more special orders of the Senate, we are now in the motion period. Are there any motions on the floor at this time? Senator Violette. There's been a motion to remove Speaker Pro Tempore Violette from the Academics Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Hunter. Granted. Chairwoman Diapolito. Does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Seeing as the sponsor has found this amendment friendly, the amendment is now adopted. Chairwoman Diapolito. Does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Seeing as the sponsor has found this amendment friendly, the amendment is now adopted. Senator Gopal. Does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Seeing as the sponsor has found this amendment friendly, the amendment is now adopted. Senator Fry. Right. There's been a motion to remove Senator Fry from the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Fry. There's been a motion to add Senator Fry to the Sustainability Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Keenan. There's been a motion to add a recommendation to the first reading calendar. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The recommendation is added and granted the legislative number of 139. Senator DiLorenzo. There's been a motion to remove Senator DiLorenzo from the Health and Safety Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator DiLorenzo. There's been a motion to add Senator DiLorenzo to the, which committee? Sustainability Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairman Matthews. There's been a motion to add a bill to the first reading calendar. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The bill is added and granted the legislative number of 140. Chairwoman Gopal. Any other motions on the floor at this time? Senator Coulomb. There's been a motion to remove Senator Coulomb from the Finance Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Von Cannon. Granted. Senator Coulomb. There's been a motion to add Senator Coulomb to the Academics Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Any other motions on the floor at this time? Is there a motion for a brief recess just to add those bills into the calendar and reconcile that amendment? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Y'all probably have time to go to the bathroom if any needs to go. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Seeing no further motions, is there a motion to dispense of this motion period? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now on the call of the introduction of the new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 117-131, sponsored by Senators Walker, Fry, Violette, Manwaring. The recommendation to revitalize the utilities in humanities classes.
The senators are recognized.
So Brooke is not here tonight, unfortunately, but this is basically just a recommendation to update some of the whiteboards, give us some new markers in the humanities classroom buildings.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty simple recommendation to replace the current whiteboards that are in the humanities building. Most of them, as I think probably some of you might know, have a lot of stains on them. They're kind of hard to read on, write on even. There's probably going to be a bill I know that we're going to work on later about replacing some of the materials like dry erasers and markers as well. But for now, we're just looking at replacing the whiteboards, and that's really all this recommendation is aimed to be.
And with that, we yield our time to questions.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Academics Committee. Continuing on with the call of the introduction of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-132, sponsored by Chairperson Zaffarito. A recommendation to replace missing/broken bathroom stall hooks and necessary.
The sponsors recognized.
This one's pretty self-explanatory. The amendment was added to make the legislation inclusive to all bathrooms around campus. But if you haven't noticed, right now a lot of single stall bathrooms and all stalls around campus are missing the little stall hook where you hang your jacket or your backpack or your purse. It's overall very unsanitary and inconvenient. So this legislation is just recommending that the university conduct an assessment, and then after that, within a timely manner, repair all broken and replace any missing stall hooks. I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Student Life Committee. Continuing on with the call of the introduction of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-133, sponsored by Senator Lewis. The recommendation to provide LinkedIn Premium access for students.
Senator Lewis, you are recognized.
So this is a pretty simple one, an easy one, I think. I even kept it simple when I wrote this one also. But I am not looking into it anymore. I'm asking right now that students receive a LinkedIn premium account. You know, we all have LinkedIn, you know, the free accounts. They're just not really trusted or nothing with the free. But it's for better jobs, resume building. They can take like the LinkedIn classes, get certificates and things like that. So I think it's a great benefit to students. You know, it's some other colleges, you know, doing some research. They currently offer like LinkedIn, like the classes, so students can take like LinkedIn classes. So I think, you know, it'd be interesting. But yeah, I think it's time to make some big news, and I think doing this would really get more students to come here. With that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Academics Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-134, sponsored by the Finance Committee. A recommendation to permit the Finance Committee to allocate funds.
Chairman Matthews, you are recognized.
Hello. This is, hold on one minute. I couldn't pull it up beforehand. What else was that? They found it. Okay. Yeah, this is about $8,000 for the, what was listed in the bill. I yield the questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Speaker Pro Tempore Violette. There has been a motion to pass SBL 117-134 by unanimous consent. Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the introduction of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBO 117-135, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to offer free printing days during finals week this year.
Senator Lewis, you are recognized.
So this is a pretty simple recommendation, I think, to me personally, but it's basically saying that students get like a couple free pages of printing during the last weeks of the semester or finals, whichever come first. If you look at the recommendation, I put in there somewhere between 5 and 15 numbers for like the printing and things like that. Right now is that I look at this is that sometimes they charge us 15 cents to print. I'm not going to use this printer here at the school. I don't, it's not very good, anyway. But the moral of the story is that I think we should be offering printing service to our students. We have a special events budget. It very get really used, so I think it should be put on the students instead of me putting on other things that we're spending on sometimes. I did get a question earlier today. Why did I say a number, but then say the determination for like the information up to like the administration? Well, that would just secure two birds with one stone. I would like to see a number of pages awarded to each student, but ultimately, the administration is going to do what they want to do. So I just want to stay in the student's scope of what I had control over. So with that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Academics Committee. Continuing on with the call of the new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-136, sponsored by Senators Lemon Reed, Violette, and Fry, the recommendation to implement a non-honors University of South Carolina history course in the curriculum.
The sponsors are recognized.
My apologies for the noise. My main points with creating this legislation is that as far as research has gone, this is the only SEC university with a functioning university history class, but it is restricted to South Carolina Honors College students only. And in a matter of opinion, I think it would be beneficial for students to know the history of this university and its greater role in the state and in the nation as a whole. You might have a question.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Academics Committee. Continuing on with the call of the introduction of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-137, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to create a program with local business to offer discounts to...
Senator Lewis, you are recognized.
So I think this is a unique idea for like a recommendation, having some kind of program like, where with local businesses here in the Columbia area where students can like receive like discounts and things like that. So like, for example, like at a restaurant, like you can get, like if you purchase a meal, you get a free appetizer, like $10 off a haircut, like work with like local businesses and things like that. What really sparked my interest about this was that I happened to be like at a, City of Columbia. They had a Chamber of Commerce had like a little mix and greet. I was there, and it just really sparked my interest about how we can get the businesses more involved in helping with the students and things like that. Some of you may be thinking, why is this necessary? If I can save money, I want to save money, and if the businesses are willing to help out other students and things like that. And think about this, when finals come up, you're at the coffee shop, and they say, "Come on by, you can get $5 off this coffee right here." You'll probably pack the place out. With that, I'm going to give my time for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Sams.
I have not talked to any businesses yet. The simple reason is I didn't think it would, I didn't want to get too far ahead of this without, if it passed or not.
Senator Modica. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Iftikhar as Senator Modica's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Modica. Point of personal privilege, yeah. Granted. Any other questions for the senator? Senator Kubiak.
Yeah, so I would actually want to do like both to continue the partnerships that we have now, but also adding on like new partnerships that we have on.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Student Life Committee. Continuing on with the call of the introduction of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBO 117-138, sponsored by the Judiciary Committee, a bill to correct constitutional challenges criteria.
The sponsors are recognized.
Hey guys, this one, sorry, let me just make it bigger on my glasses. This one took out the language that included the president of the university, like if he didn't sign for the constitutional challenges criteria, but it took that out because that language is now moot because now we don't require that on our legislation. And also the amendment that was added is just to clarify that it's pending student body legislation that has not been specifically passed or vetoed by the student body president. Because fun fact, if legislation doesn't get signed within 10 days, it automatically gets passed. So this was just to sway away from any loopholes. I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Lewis. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Kirby as Senator Lewis's proxy. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Lewis. Granted. Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to all committees. Continuing on with the call of the new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBO 117-139, sponsored by Senator Keenan, a recommendation to update the signage for the College of Pharmacy.
Senator Keenan, you are recognized.
First, I just want to say I don't feel too great, so if I seem a bit down, it's not because I'm not happy to be here. I just don't feel well. Yeah, so I don't know if many of you know where the College of Pharmacy is, but it actually sits in Coker Life Science Building, and the old sign they had there actually isn't a sign there anymore. They just took it down. Why, I don't know. But it used to share space with 9 other different departments on a piece of just a big garnet board. And I didn't even know there was a sign for the College of Pharmacy until I started looking into this because it's so small. This is basically just asking for a recommendation to make it easier to know where the College of Pharmacy is and have a sign that's like representative of the college so that people walking by, pedestrians or vehicle drivers, can see where the College of Pharmacy is, because I do believe the College of Pharmacy does enough inside the classroom, and whenever people graduate too, deserve a sign that says, hey, the people are colleges, rather than just knowing you're at the college when you walk into the classroom. And with that, I yield my time to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Academics Committee. Good job, first piece presentation. Continuing on with the call of the new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBO 117-140, sponsored by Chairman Matthews and Speaker Pro Tempore Violette, a bill to amend the Constitution to allow the student body treasurer to vote on allocation requests in private schools.
The sponsors are recognized.
Hello, hello. All right. Sorry about that. Okay. All right. So I've been a part of this organization for almost 2 years. Been in finance committee for that long as well. And it might sound kind of dorky, but I actually am very passionate about this system, and I've been working for the past 2-ish years to find whatever improvements I can to make it run better, to make it make more sense. And this is just one of those things that I've been sort of thinking about for a little while. It's always been strange to me that the treasurer is elected by the entirety of the student body to represent students in student government financial matters, and then ultimately they've got almost no say in what the money is used for. Of course, Senate has has control over the finance code. We can, say what items can be funded, what items can't get funded, whatever, and that, is not something that I'm suggesting changing. What I do think the Finance Committee in particular would benefit from is a vote of the treasurer on allocation requests specifically, not for legislation. Refer to the committee specifically just for allocation requests. I think for one, it would strengthen the committee's decision in a very real way. I like to think that everybody in Finance Committee, knows everything about all these different requests that are coming across our desk. But, sometimes some members don't even bring their laptops, and so we got to bring them onto the big screen so that everybody knows what's going on. Treasurer, no matter who they are, is going to know a lot more about these requests than the individual members. And so I think in that way, it would strengthen ultimately the committee's decision, either yes or no. And if you aren't in Finance Committee, usually the votes in the committee are basically unanimous one way or the other. And then beyond that, I wrote a few notes down. I think it also is a big benefit to the committee because it ensures continuity for voting members throughout the committee, throughout the semester. We actually have a pretty strong group right now. People tend to not leave the committee. In fact, people usually join the committee. I love it. It's awesome. But I'm just thinking about in some other years where there is just a lot of committee turnover. I think the committee would benefit a lot from a voting member who's there consistently at every single meeting, thereabouts. The chairman or chairwoman, they're there at every single meeting, but they can't vote. And so I think that's another reason why this would be beneficial to the committee. And then, that's this is sort of the benefit that I'm thinking of. Something that we had talked about as a potential concern last Friday was the idea of undoing the balance of power between the treasurer and the Senate. And I can see where, that argument is coming from, but, ultimately it is the decision of this body as to what this money is used for, not by Finance Committee. Finance Committee makes recommendations to the Senate. We do all of the grunt work of putting it into a bill and bringing it to, the entire body for y'all's ultimate vote. The one person who is involved in this process and doesn't have a vote on the final say of legislation here is the treasurer, and that would not be changing if this were to pass. So, if you imagine a scenario where a piece of funding passed, say 5-4, and it was the treasurer's vote that ended up voting in favor of it and sending it in the recommendation to Senate, if any of those 4 senators had real problems, and if they voted in that way against the rest of the committee, I can guarantee you they had some real problems with the piece of funding. They would have the opportunity to bring that to the attention of the rest of the Senate, and if enough of the Senate, agreed with it, they would strike it from the rest of that bill, which has happened here in the past, or at least that situation where we've debated a single piece that's happened here in the past, that happened last April. And so, really, at the end of the day, this probably would not change a whole lot. Again, most of the time, votes in committee are unanimous, but I think structurally it makes our system make more sense. It would make it make more sense from my perspective. I've been here for a little while. I've always thought it was strange if the treasurer didn't have a vote. And then, Dan, if there's anything else to add.
Yes, initially I was very opposed to this until Jack actually laid out these arguments. And over time, especially after rules, when we had that conversation, I believe that the whole one bad apple argument or the power imbalance argument just becomes kind of moot to a certain extent, especially when we pass all of these funding allocations unanimously each week. So that's why
All right, so I think it's being sent to all committees, right? Yeah. So if you guys have any questions now, I'm happy to answer them. If you have any questions over the next week, I'm always happy to get on the phone. And then I'm sure we'll be back here next week to do a final vote on this. So, I yield the questions.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Chairwoman Diapolito.
I'm sure there are.
There are.
Yeah, but I'm not aware of them.
Mississippi State is the first one I think of off the top of my head, but there's multiple. And I'm sure Ashley thinks of questions too. Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to all committees. Continuing on with the call of the new legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing no more, we are now on the call of the uncontested legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 117-128, sponsored by Senator Tapia and Chairwoman Hopkins, a recommendation to implement a donations to citation program.
The sponsors are recognized.
All right, nothing has changed or been amended since last week, so everything we said last week is still valid. Is there anything to add? In that case, if anyone has any questions, we yield.
The sponsors yield their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The legislation is now adopted. Good job, Senator Tapia. First on. Continuing on with the call of the uncontested legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, that completes the call of the uncontested legislation. We are now on the call of the contested legislation. The clerk will now read.
SCL 117-117, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to launch a study zone map of study and collaborative spaces on campus.
Is there any representative present? Senator Kirby.
Hey guys, I don't know much about this bill, but Lester wanted me to point out that this is only on the contested calendar because there was originally a change that they wanted to make and academics wanted to make, and then they ended up not wanting to make that change. So this bill is the same and should be approved. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now move to a period of debate on this legislation. You can sit down. Do any senators wish to speak on this matter? Chairperson Tobiak.
So I'm just going to be up front because transparency. The original discussion about this piece that occurred, I was not present for. This was post me coming back from a conference, and no one needed to post grumpy not having food all day. But that being said, from what I was told and from what was described to me, there was an issue and kind of just confusion with some of the wording, the indication of whether or not safety things would be published. Reason for that being there are similar pieces that have been brought up in academics about creating maps. For example, confused freshmen wandering into buildings, not knowing where they're trying to go for classes, and so why don't we have maps published for the general public? We have generalized maps, as all of you guys are aware, about, outside buildings, that kind of thing, but you don't necessarily have schematics of the inside of all buildings published to the internet. You can access them when you go into buildings, but that still requires you being in there, and typically there is, to a degree, whether or not it's a large amount of supervision in the building. The original topic with this was brought up that depending on how specific you got with how much information you're sharing about study zones, which, that could be very differing, and that was not necessarily elaborated on in the piece. If you're wanting to talk about if it is a location that will close after a certain period of time, especially for the academic buildings at a certain time of night, they will be closing. So can you stay there until 2 o'clock in the morning? Unsure. Along with specific room numbers to find the study spaces, because technically speaking, 90% of buildings probably have some declassified study space. Those kinds of things they had talked about whether or not they would be published, and if it does, it can start to create a situation where a map could almost be created of a building, and that could present safety concerns if you're going in line with what current university policy is of what is published online for the map parts. When it was brought back up in committee, that same concern was still voiced, but there was also another aspect with how the new amendment had been written, that they did not like the aspect that there would be a login wall for the map, and wanted that removed and essentially going back to the original piece. My personal opinion, I think the adding of the amendment is all right. It doesn't really hurt or you know, it's not necessarily doesn't add, but it's not necessarily something that like adds to the content of the piece past a protective barrier. So either way, the piece is still a good one. It's just whether or not you are concerned about the emergency management side of things. But grand scheme, I think it is a good piece overall. And that is my personal opinion. But that is kind of where the confusion in committee has come from. So, but with that, I yield to questions if you have.
The chairperson yields their time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Sands.
So I don't necessarily have like the policy up front and like it says XYZ things. But when you're looking at maps overall, and this is just something like you can look at for pretty much all departments, it's not necessarily like a university, like saying on the website, university policy is XYZ thing, but is observed based off of how the website is even functional. When you look at the university mapping website, the way it kind of pops up is it's a almost overview of all of campus with little like teardrop shapes of certain things. Like here's a residence hall, here is this, but it's not going into each building and showing, okay, when you're going to a residence hall, this is where room 104 is, and here's where 204 is. Those kinds of things are not specific, and that is typical for pretty much everything on a college campus. That's part of the reason, like if you go in Russell House, for example, the maps will be published on each floor, but you don't see, if you Google map of Russell House, grand scheme, other than the fact that it's a public, like this specific building is kind of a weird loophole because it is a more public building. But when it comes to like even academic building, residence hall, that kind of thing, typically they're not going to be directly published. I know one example I can reference, housing. We do not have any of our building schematics published. The only way you can get access to them is from logging in as a student or, you know, applying for housing. You need to access them from other people sharing them to you, but that's not necessarily our thing. If that makes sense.
Senator Jacobson.
Those are also this going back to the thing we were talking about on unrelated stuff of what is public versus private. Certain areas of things are more public, so a student union is a considered more public thing, but for the grand scheme of the majority of things on campus, most of those are not going to be published easily accessibly.
Any other questions? Senator Jacobson.
No, it was a question brought up of whether or not the specificity would result in that.
Senator Lacco.
Yeah. That was part of some of the discussion that was brought up of, like, this idea would be great. There will be things that are officially recognized. So if you think about, like, a residence hall, there are going to be, like, specific study rooms. If you're looking at Russell House, there's also, like, specific study spaces, and there are things students can use as a study space. But that was kind of where the specificity thing came in. He did not necessarily define it directly, which I think was less intentional because of that aspect. Grand scheme, I don't necessarily know like what the degree of specificity he's looking for would be, but grand scheme, like that was a conversation point brought up. I don't necessarily know like how that would map out for this.
Senator Anderson. Senator Fry. There's been a motion to limit debate for a period of 1 minute. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Okay, you can start. Any other questions? Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Senator Kubiak, you can sit down.
Thank you.
Are there any other senators who wish to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we will now move to a voice roll call vote on this legislation. The clerk will call the roll. Senator Jacobson. There's been a motion to pass SBL 117. I lost it, please. SBL 117 by voice vote. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. We will now move to a voice vote on the passage of this legislation. A vote of aye in the affirmative is for the passage, and a vote of nay in the negative is not for the passage. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the contested legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-129, sponsored by School of Music Delegation, a resolution to celebrate the 105th anniversary of the Fairfield.
The sponsors are recognized. Taylor, if you want to stay in your seat. Anybody willing to speak? Oh, Senator Kirby. Do you have a secondary motion? That Trump, so we'll start with that. There's been a motion to table SBL 117-129 indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed. All those in favor say aye, and please actually, because I can't tell when you guys are quiet. All those in favor of tabling indefinitely say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The bill is tabled indefinitely. Continuing on with the call of the contested calendar, the clerk will now read.
SBL 117-130, sponsored by Senator Rios, a recommendation to expand and upgrade the use of water fountains with bottle fillers in older campus buildings.
Are there any representatives present? Senator Kirby.
Hey guys, this bill is to enhance our water fountains, and as a water fountain user, I am very supportive of making it so we have more bottle fillers. This has an amendment now, and it should be voted positively. I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a period of debate on this legislation. Does any senator wish to speak on this matter? Senator Coulomb. There's been a motion to bypass a period of debate and move to a voice vote. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. We will now move to a voice vote on this legislation. A vote of aye in the affirmative is for the passage, and a vote of nay is for the failure. All those in favor of passage say aye. All opposed. The ayes have it. The legislation is now adopted. Continuing on with the call of the contested legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, we will now move to a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? I'm going to say one. If you are one of the following delegation chairs, please come up so you can give your report. I'm going to say your names. Senators Kern, Sams, Baldinger, Watley, Koviak, Kirby, and Lewis. You all can all come up at the same time and just go down the road. I could give you all an order if you'd like.
Hey guys, I'll keep it short and sweet. During retreat, our goals were to create a strong line of communication.
Say what delegation.
Oh, sorry. Chance Kirby, School of Law. Our goal is to create a strong line of communication with the School of Law to find more ways to better connect us. And while I have nothing to report right now, we are still working on that effort. I yield to questions. All right.
Any questions for Senator Kirby? Seeing none. Whoever wants to go next.
Hi, Lennox Koviak. I'm Senator for College Social Work. So generally speaking, College Social Work is a very small college. For context, the senior year is like 40 people in total-ish, so like tiny. So with that being said, a lot of our things with delegation is very in-house, very network, but there is its kind of own power structure within the college with the cohort representatives. So having open lines of communication with them, also with administration, I'm trying to develop with them, currently with our communications director, making essentially a Senate newsletter as part of the newsletter to essentially translate what we're doing here to why it's important for our people in the college. Along with trying to help assist our student organizations who have been having a bit of trouble navigating funding, because we are tiny and also don't have that much money to do much things. But yeah, Grand Team just continuing those kinds of efforts. So we will see how that goes going forward. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
Any questions for Chairperson Kubiak? Seeing none, thank you.
Hello, I'm Jasmine Watley. I'm representing for the College of Nursing. And we do have a little bit of legislation going on with Senator Loco. She's doing a pilot program for healthier vending machines. That's something that's being worked on with the Health and Safety Committee as well. And I personally am working on some collaboration with the Anne Frank Center, even though it's not really directly related to the College of Nursing. It's something that I'm doing. But other than that, there isn't really much happening. I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you.
Hi, Carolyn from the Iowa delegation. We are currently working on brainstorming pieces of potential pieces of legislation for better for student benefit Iowa. And we also plan on doing a tabling event for sometime in January or I yield my time to questions.
Any questions? Senator Sheridan. Granted. Any other questions? Seeing none.
Hi, I'm Gracie Sims. I'm the delegation chair for the College of Information and Communications. So, for us, we had 11776, which was passed, which was just aimed at creating more sustainability for the School of Journalism and Mass Communications. And then Senator Fry has 2 pieces of legislation, so he's doing it wonderful. And then the last little thing is that the piece of legislation 117-116, that just involved the Carolina Agency, which runs through the CIC. So that was just like a fun little collaboration thing. So that's all I have. With that, I yield to questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. All right.
Okay, hi, I'm Lexi. I'm the delegation chair for the College of Pharmacy, and our main goal has really just been to find areas that our peers and faculty feel are in need of improvement. Our college sends out a weekly newsletter, which allows students to just give us their input, and we haven't really gotten much yet. But our college has recently got accredited for another 8 years, which is the maximum you can get. And then we also have a really high first-time NAPLEX pass rate, which is 89.9% from 2024, when the national first-time pass rate was only 77.5%. So we think that our college just deserves to be recognized for all of its accomplishments by working to improve the facility. So to start, Ashad presented his piece today about getting new signage in front of Coker Life Science, and he's also planning on meeting with Jamie Howell on Friday to discuss questions that our orgs had in the college about RSO and that are your questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We're still in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to speak? Speaker Pro Tempore Viola.
You know, I really got to give a big hand to our delegation chair. The work that they've been doing post-retreat has been really something else. So just a big round of applause for that. And for some of them, this is their first time coming up and speaking and giving a report. You know, I'm really proud of you all from the bottom of my heart. And with that, I feel pretty well.
Okay. We are still in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to speak on a matter? Chairwoman Diapolito. It's okay. It didn't really break. It's literally just the back and battery.
Okay. I just really quickly wanted to point out why I tabled SBL 117-129 indefinitely. I think it just should be brought to everyone's attention that this was to celebrate 105th year. Usually you celebrate 100th year, 50th year, and the lowest 20 to 25 years. That's just a set precedent that's happening. So if we did pass this, it would really bring in a lot of question of why aren't we celebrating this organization's 36th year? So that was just my background on that. I yield my time to questions.
Are there any questions? Also, I fixed it. All right. Anybody else willing to speak during the open discussion period? Senator Talaka.
Hey, hello. I'm the delegation chair for the College of Arts and Sciences, and I mentioned the last time that I was working on a survey. I actually changed it from just arts and sciences to pretty much everyone, and then once I get responses, I'll like sort it by college. It includes questions about how students feel about programs and buildings around campus, as well as 2 questions that are really important about the change in the attendance policy. The change would be from like the current one, which is 5% of classes, which is 2 sessions of a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, to an initial 5 days, which would be cool. If you use that for like, you can use it for anything you want. I've already spoken with the person in charge of the student advocacy office, and she was actually the one that was like, let's do this. So I think that'd be great. The survey is just to get feedback on how students feel about that, so we can use that data to kind of convince faculty senate. Right now I have 20 responses and I'm aiming for at least 50. So I'm gonna send it in the Senate group chat. If you guys could share that to your clubs and everything, that'd be really cool. Once I have enough responses, I'll sort it and then send it to each delegation chair. I yield my time to questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Do any other senators wish to speak? Senator Hunter.
So I'm a part of a thing called Dance Marathon. Both of us are. And yep, and back there, yes. So we have a thing, I'm a part of Morale, which are the crazy people who dance for 14 hours straight. And the big thing that we have is we have a mascot, and he is right here. His name is Murph. And what you do is each week he's given to a different Moraler to show his adventures in every Moraler's life. So it's like, hey, this is what we're doing it for, this is our whys, and here's what happens. So what I wanted to ask y'all to put on your best smiles or your best poses or anything, I would like for us to get a picture. Y'all can stay in your seats. I was just going to get a picture like this, but if y'all could smile, that'd be great for me. Awesome.
Do you want me to take a photo like up here?
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it, y'all. Yep. So yeah, hey, I appreciate that, y'all. I know they'll get a kick out of it. So yeah, thank you. Forgot about that. I yield to the well.
Any other senators wishing to speak in the period of open discussion? Seeing none, we will now move to a period of announcements. Are there any announcements from the floor? Senator Silkert. Yeah. Questions? Well, okay. Senator Jacobson. Tomorrow or next week? Okay. Any other senators wishing to give an announcement? No. Okay, I have one quick one, and then we are good to go. Good Senate session today. I'm about to read off a list of names. If your last name is read, you're not in trouble, but just check your email because I'm trying to meet with you, and I haven't heard back from y'all yet. Let me pull my list. Sorry. And some of you might have like reached out, but please just like respond to the original email / just sign up in the Sign Up Genius because it makes it easier. Venegas, Frazier, Cassetti, Santiago Cedillo, Freer, Gay, and Kirby. Your name just got called. I just want to hang out with you. So fill out that Sign Up Genius, please. And then this is like a personal to me thing, but I'm working on a research project about like anxiety and upcoming surgical procedures. So if any of you guys are willing to be interviewed refer my research about like if you ever got like a surgical procedure done, it could be inpatient or outpatient, and preferably you're put under general anesthesia, let me know because I would love to interview you to do some work on that. With that, I yield my time to questions. Are there any questions? Senator Violet? No, just getting research. Learning about anesthesia. If I get into CRNA school in 6 years, then yeah, I'll do the procedure on you in like 15 years from now. Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Without objection, the Senate will now stand adjourned until Wednesday, November 19th, 2025.